People can see the behind-the-scenes story on the making of your new CD, Trouble No More, and a new DVD. It comes out in a couple of days. Was that important to you to have this documented for some reason?
Well, it never dawned on me. You know, people have asked me, you know, I've been making records for 27 years now. With this record, Indiana University, which is located in Bloomington, Indiana, I talked to a professor there who's the head of the department, and all these people came in and they all shot the process, and after about 2 or 3 days, you know, these kids became part of this record being made because you knew all of them. I started to know all of them, and they were, you know, I would ask their opinion, well, what do you think about this? And of course, they're young people. They, you know, Robert Johnson, I'm not really sure I know who that is. You know, I know LL Cool J, but I don't know Robert Johnson. So it was an interesting process to have these 20-year-olds in the studio with us.
And it comes alive because it's not just the voices or the sounds. You get to know Miriam, the violinist, sure, and Heather Headley, who people know here in New York as a Broadway actress, does backup for you. Right. It really brings all that to life. I think that's a great aspect of it.
Well, Heather is, you know, she's just like, you know, she is such an undiscovered talent, and I mean, she is probably the best singer.
It seems every once in a while people come around to the real deal, to the roots music, to really what matters, and it seems to touch people for some reason, don't you think?
Well, I hope, you know, I mean, I think there's a certain aspect of this culture that really, you know, to enjoy this record, you have to really sit down and spend time with it. You have to sit down and listen to it, listen to what the lyrical content is, and listen to the way it was recorded. It's not a record that, you know, is digested in a McDonald's style.
Before we hear you play again, Andy York is with you today. Tell us what he's meant to you, particularly for this new project.
Well, Andrew is a very serious young man and very dedicated. So we were making a record a few years ago called Cutting Heads, and that's when all of this really started germinating. I said, Andrew, you know, this white guy bottleneck playing, it's not cutting it. You know, we're going to have to figure out how to really do this, or we just can't do this anymore. I can't hear white guys on bottlenecks anymore. You know, it's too boring. We've heard it a million times. So Andrew kind of took it out as a challenge, and after that whole Cutting Heads record was done, he lives here in New York. He just started studying Son House's playing and Johnson's playing, and you know, put months by himself in his apartment here, figuring out that this thumb is playing this rhythm and this is doing that, and emotionally he's doing this, and you know, Johnson had about 5 things going on at once, intentional or not. That's what was happening, and so to figure that out intellectually is one thing, but then how do you emotionally tie it together? And I remember him calling me up during the process, what do you think about this? And I heard it over the phone, he's going, well, Andy, it sounds better than ring, but I don't think you're there yet. And then all of a sudden I got a phone call one day, and it was like, wow, is that you? Are you like playing some obscure piece of material that I've never heard? And he said, no, that's me, man. Wow. So once he started doing that, then, you know, that's how Stones in My Passway got into the show.
Well, I'll let you grab your guitar, John Mellencamp. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks you for having me.
Once again, from the new CD, Trouble No More, along with Andy York, here's John Mellencamp.
Is what we need from coast to coast to Washington. So America voted on a president, but no one kept count on how the election nation went from Florida to Washington. And goddamn said one side and the other said the same. Both looked pretty guilty, but no one took the blame. From coast to coast to Washington. So a new man in the White House with a familiar name said he had some fresh ideas, but it's worse now since it came from Texas to Washington. And he wants to fight with many, and he says it's not for oil. He called up the National Guard to police the world from Baghdad to Washington. So what is the thought process to take a human's life? What would be the reason to think that this is right? From heaven to Washington, from Jesus Christ to Washington.